Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Colette. Discover the world. Guided travel since 1918.
呢個係將軍澳線嘅尾站，多謝乘搭港鐵。北角，這是將軍澳線的終點站，謝謝乘搭港鐵。North Point, end of the Chungkwon-O line. Thank you for traveling on the MTR.
And good morning, everybody in the United States. It's good evening here in Hong Kong, where we're 12 hours ahead of New York for our global travel update for this week. Lots of stuff to talk about, but first of all, let me tell you where we are. I'm sitting here in the tallest hotel in the world. It's an amazing place. It's the Ritz-Carlton, but amazing because the first floor of the hotel is on the 102nd story. It is the tallest hotel in the world, with the tallest pool in the world, the tallest bar in the world, the tallest gym in the world, the tallest spa in the world. Oh yeah, and even the tallest presidential suite in the world where I am right now. Imagine this. It's nearly 4,500 square feet. It towers over Victoria Harbor and Hong Kong. And for those of you who want to know how much it gets a night, it's 162,000 Hong Kong dollars, which translates to 21,000 US dollars a night. They were nice enough to loan me the room. I'm not staying in this room, but a boy can always dream. Anyway, a big thank you to the Ritz-Carlton because they've been so helpful in supporting us here in Hong Kong during this shoot of what we are doing on our next series called Hidden. It's the latest in our shows. We're filming it here, and it's called Hidden Hong Kong. For those of you who haven't seen our Hidden series, here's the mantra. No gift shop, no tour bus, no brochure, no guidebook, no TripAdvisor stickers. I take you to the most extraordinary experiences in a destination that nobody knows about, but that are totally accessible to you. Our latest Hidden show, Hidden Uganda, is on Amazon, Apple TV, and public television now. So check your local listings, and we'll have a little bit more about that later in the show. But let's talk about some news that has to be talked about. Especially ironic that I'm in Hong Kong for that, because we're talking about tariffs and trade wars. I mean, it's getting even crazier, and it started to run on items that are travel related. Air tags, earplugs or earpods, headphones, sneakers, jeans. About 90% of all luggage that you buy is made in China. And everybody's expecting that price to soar. And we're getting ready for summer. So people are buying stuff now. But it's worse because the tariffs also affect spare parts for airplanes, which means that cost just went up, which means your airline ticket is inevitably going to go up. And we're seeing most of all that happening with reciprocity here in China already. It's crazy. And remember last week I told you about Virgin Atlantic posting their first profit since 2016, and in that same announcement, boasting about that profit, they basically said, okay, that's it. No more profits because we're projecting a real downward demand for this year due to the tariffs and just the trade wars and the stock market. Well, last week, United Airlines reported surprisingly good results for their last quarter, huge results. But guess what? In the same release, they said, guess what? 24 hours later, they came out with another release and said, oh, by the way, we're cutting capacity because demand has fallen off. I'm not saying it's fallen off a cliff, but it's about to. We're seeing numbers that we haven't seen in years going down, right? Denmark alone, 38% down. Canada, 75% down. Germany, Finland, of course, we're seeing the rest of Europe going down as well. And a lot of Americans holding back on their travel plans. The cruise industry reported in February the best years ever, having sold 80% of their inventory for 2025 already, and a lot of their inventory for 2026. It is now April 21st, and we're now seeing the intersection of canceled reservations along with of fall off in future reservations. It's hurting everybody right now. The last stat that we saw was that for this quarter, if this trajectory continues, it'll represent a $64 billion hit in revenue to travel and travel-related businesses in the United States. We will continue to talk about that. A couple of other items to talk about. The deadline is fast approaching, literally after 22 years of not approaching, for something called Real ID. Back in 2003, Congress passed a law that mandated Real ID to basically protect and form a foolproof identification card that really tells everybody you are who you say you are based on your driver's license and additional documentation. For those of you who know what it is already, that means you've gone to your state DMV, and on the right-hand corner of your driver's license, there's a little gold star, which as of May 7th will tell the TSA it really is you. Now, right now, 81% of Americans actually have Real ID. 19% don't. That's a lot of travelers. And if you don't have it by May 7th, the TSA is not saying you can't fly yet. But what they are saying is it's going to take you a whole lot longer to clear security. Now, one caveat here, if you're already holding a valid U.S. passport, you don't need Real ID. That is better than anything. That's your ID. So if you got the passport, you don't have to run to the DMV. If you don't, you better run to the DMV, because after all these years, 17 years after it was supposed to go into effect, it apparently is happening as of May 7th. Okay, another interesting development. And it sounds like good news, but I got to raise a red flag. American Airlines has announced, it's already starting on May 1, that it's going to extend or earlier boarding times for a number of their planes. So for their Airbus 319s and Airbus 320s, they're going to start boarding the plane 35 minutes before departure time. It used to be 30. And for their Airbus 321s and 737s, they're going to start boarding the plane 40 minutes ahead of time. Used to be 35. That extra 5 minutes, the airline claims, will allow for more efficient boarding and will allow for people to better manage the overhead bin space on the planes and allow for fewer bags to be gate checked. Sounds great, except for one small problem. Here's the red flag. American has not extended their minimum connect times between flights at their hubs. So if you're connecting to one of those planes, you have less time to make the flight before all the bins are full and you're out of luck. So let's see how that works out. But it sounded good. Let's see what happens. All right. Now, you know what I think about airline food. It's an oxymoron, right? But what about airport food? You can get some pretty good meals these days, but at a premium. I mean, airport food is no bargain. It's overpriced. And for years, the most expensive airport food we knew about was at Newark and at LaGuardia airports. Well, there's a new player in town with the most expensive airport food. Guess who it is? It's Istanbul. That's right, $20 beers. And you know what they're charging for a banana? $7, one banana. And if you want a 3-ounce portion of pasta, that'll set you back $28. Even a croissant to go. A croissant is $17. But wait, it's about to get worse. Because, and by the way, this is not particular to Istanbul Airport, but the airports don't tell you this. The airport retailers don't tell you this. So I'm going to tell you this. And obviously it's based on my own personal experience. And that is this. If you're flying back to the US from major airports overseas, they're still considered high security flights, basically requiring secondary security station. So what that means is you go through normal security, you go through passport control, and then you head to the gate. What are you doing when you're heading to the gate? You're passing by retailers. What do you want to bring on a long flight? A bottle of water, a Diet Coke, ginger ale, fruit juice, right? So you get some. And then you get to the gate and there's secondary security. They go through your bags and they take out your liquids and throw them out. Ridiculous. So now you know. Don't buy it on the way to the gate because you're not cleared yet and the retailers are not being honest and telling you not to do that. They're selling you stuff they know is going to get thrown out. Okay. And by the way, $20 for a beer and $7 for a banana? Woo. If there's ever a call for BYOF, bring your own food, it's the Istanbul airport. Okay. And then one of the pet peeves we've had for years, and I always tell people what to do about it. Let's go back to getting dinged for damage to your rental car that you didn't do. How does that happen? Easy. You rent a car, you fill out the form, you say whether you want the insurance or not, gas or not, whatever. They give you the keys, they tell you what parking space it's in, you get in the car, you go. Bad idea. You need to, before you ever get in that car, take out your cell phone, walk around the car, taking every exterior picture you can, make sure it's time-coded to see if there's any ding or scratch, and then go on the inside of the car to check the cleanliness of the car and any dings and scratches there. And if you find any, go back to the counter, do yourself the biggest favor, and show the photos to the agent and have them noted on the rental car contract that these pre-existed, you're renting the car. Otherwise, you're going to get hit with upwards of $4,000 in repair bills for something you didn't do. And it's your word against theirs. But now, guess what Hertz is about to do? They're starting it. It's going to be installed by the end of this year to install 100, what they call them, special X-ray tunnel logs, sort of like an MRI for your car, at 100 airport return operations at Hertz by the end of this year. Now, what do these machines do? You're literally going to be driving through this tunnel as you return the car. And these machines can detect every minor nick and scratch, even a little bit of a cracked windshield or undue tire tread, damage, you name it. And guess what? You might get stuck for the bill too. So what I'd like to do, and there's nothing wrong in doing that, since they have the technology, are you listening, Hertz? Have me drive through the tunnel before I leave the lot, and then have me drive through the tunnel when I come back. Wouldn't that be the fair way to go? Anyway, we're talking serious problems coming when people didn't get charged, or they do get charged for damage they had nothing to do with. Okay, let's go out and say hello to a couple people. All right. Tayo's saying hi from Maryland. Patty's saying Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in Dubai. That's true. This is the tallest hotel in the world where I am right now in Hong Kong. Deb's in New Jersey. Boston Bob is saying greetings from where America was born 250 years ago, and it is a Marathon Monday. The greatest day of the year here in Boston. Okay. Boston strong. Jeremiah is saying greetings from Uganda. That's right, our show, Hidden Uganda, on the air now. Gene is saying good morning from Tulsa. I'm hoping to visit the Christmas markets in Germany at the end of November and spending a few days in London beforehand. What is the best airport in London to fly into? Should I buy plane tickets now or wait? Well, wait a second. If you're going to the German markets first, and I'd be interested to know which ones. By the way, my favorite Christmas market in Germany is in Nuremberg, believe it or not. You're going to love it. But why wouldn't you just take the train? Get yourself a rail pass, right? Better do, and don't forget, you're going to need that ETA if you're going to London, that electronic ticket authorization. It'll cost you about $13. You got to apply for it online about 72 hours before you get your ticket. Because if you don't have that visa, that ETA, you're not getting on the plane. Okay? Now, you're going to visit the Christmas markets, obviously in December. My guess is when in December? If it's before the 15th of December, you can wait a little bit before buying your tickets. But if it's after the 15th of December, do not wait at all. Buy them now. Those fares are only going to go up. Okay. Okay. Tayo says, I wish the administration had clearly looked at the impact of decreased tourism in the United States on the impact of the growth of our economy. Well, my feelings as well. Beware of the law of unintended consequences. All right. Patty Ford says, cheese sandwich always. I have no idea what that means, Patty. Tell me. Mindy says, Plenty of beautiful places to see in America that most people haven't been to. I couldn't agree more. Let's go back 5 years to COVID. That was when Americans, not by choice, not by plan, rediscovered their own country, rediscovered their own neighborhoods, rediscovered their own communities, things that they'd walked by for years that never stopped and looked, or drove by for years, never knew existed. Why not do it again? But here's my advice. No interstates, no freeways. Go get yourself the old road map atlas with the blue highways, the 2-lane county roads all over America, and go visit the towns, the villages, and the small cities that truly built this country, and you'll discover so much. Okay. Evelyn's saying, greetings from Cali, Colombia. Patty's saying, Turkish Air, good food. That's true. And if you happen to go in the business class lounge at the Istanbul airport with a Turkish Airlines business class ticket, their flatbeds, their flatbreads are amazing. I'll wait for the flatbeds later. Scott's saying, question. I saw you on the MSC World America naming ceremony. Your thoughts about American Airlines changing their boarding process? Well, I just talked about boarding earlier, but look, they've got this system now that sounds an audio alarm if you're not in the group that you think you're in or that you want to be in, and try to board earlier than other groups. I get that. But look, can we be honest about something? Airline boarding has always been inefficient. Why? Because they're deferring to their travel elites and their mega million milers as opposed to an efficient boarding of a plane. If I were boarding a plane and I had control of that and I was sitting in the front of the plane, I'd want to board last, right? After the lines have already sat down. And the way I'd board the plane is from the window to the aisle and from the back to the front. That's how you do boarding groups, right? But everybody realizes there's not enough bin space because they put in so many extra seats on the plane that the plane physically cannot accommodate the bags that people are carrying, even if they're playing by the rules. So it becomes this crazy game of supermarket sweep where everybody has to board first to get that bin space or they're out of luck. Something's wrong. And by the way, it goes back to the FAA and air safety. I'm not talking about comfort on a plane. I'm talking about your ability to safely evacuate in the event of an emergency with all those extra seats in the plane and no leg room, knee room, chest room, or breathing room. Just a thought. Okay, let's keep going. All right. And Michael has now corrected me. He's saying hi from Lima, Ohio. I will not make that mistake again. Mindy's saying, greetings from a PS6 alum. That's right, my elementary school in New York, 82nd and Madison. What a great experience that was for me as a kid. And Rory's saying hi from Portugal. Barbara's saying hi from Georgia. Mindy says she's planning on Mackinac and Vancouver Island. Two great destinations, the best. If you're going to go to Mackinac, try to go in May or September. June, July, and August is just too crowded. And be careful because every 30 feet, there's another fudge store. You don't want to overdo it. If you're going to Vancouver Island, what's beautiful about Vancouver Island, among other things, it's the pods of orcas there. Check them out. This is where they hang. Whale watching supreme on Vancouver Island. Jeff saying he's going to Singapore in July. I hear they charge Americans more in Chinatown restaurants. Maybe I'll wear my Vancouver hat. That's right. Hey, you know what? Chinatown and Vancouver is not bad either. Listen, I've not heard of situations where you get an American menu in Singapore. But you know what I would do if I were you? The minute you get to the hotel, ask a maid, a housekeeper, a doorman, a bellman, where's their favorite Chinese restaurant? You know what? You'll have a better time. And Mike is saying, of course, our prayers for the passing of Pope Francis that happened earlier today. Thank you, Mike, for posting that. Okay. Tracy's saying, good morning from Key West. Our 30th anniversary is the first week of August. And between the heat and our current unrest regarding travel in and out of the U.S., do you have any suggestions for somewhere to visit that's cooler and safe? Okay, be a little more specific, Tracy. Cooler and safe in the U.S. or cooler and safe outside the U.S.? Okay. Okay. Patty's saying hi from Michigan. Randy's saying hi from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Okay. Okay. Tayo says cutting routes might save airlines money in the short term, but not long term. I heard Southwest had reduced some routes too, along with all their other changes. Here's what the airlines are doing right now. Most of them are saying they're not going to cancel routes and they're not going to cancel flights. I'll take them at their word. But what they're not telling you is they're going to substitute smaller aircraft. They're going to take the bigger planes off those markets. And when they do that, the mix gets different. And so do the fares. Because in the law of supply and demand, if the seats are all filled on the plane, the airfares have nowhere to go but up. So be aware of that. Okay. Here we go. Gene says, I'm actually doing a Christmas market river cruise out of Brussels. So I plan to fly into London beforehand for a few days and then take the Eurostar to Brussels. Wasn't sure which was the best airport in London to fly into. Well, I still prefer Heathrow because it has more frequency. But Gatwick is still hanging in there. Depending on what kind of a budget you're on and which airline you're flying, there's always Luton and Stansted, but that means you got to do some ground transportation back into town. So let me know the budget. We'll talk about that. Tracy says we had hoped to get out of the U.S. All right. So if you're looking for a place that's cooler and safe, I think you mentioned August, you know where you want to go? Think about this. It's springtime in the Southern Hemisphere. And I'd go Buenos Aires. I'd go Santiago. And I'd also check out Brazil. Those three countries, I mean, they're amazing. But those three countries, Chile, Argentina, and Brazil, what a deal. And it's a perfect time of the year to go because it's cooler. Okay? All right. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry about that. Oh, she suggested Iceland. Yes, it's cooler, but it's too crowded right now. Or you could try our 51st state, Greenland. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. Let's keep going here. By the way, we're now in season 10 of our show, The Travel Detective, our weekly travel news magazine, again on PBS, Amazon, and Apple TV. Here's a little tease for our next episode. This week on The Travel Detective, it's a city in the Golden State full of history, culture, and innovation, and yet most people have never seen it. I'm going to take you through and then above some of my hidden gems of Santa Ana, California. Plus, information that could impact your next international travel destination. We'll tell you which countries are the most corrupt. And then, it was home to the Montana National Guard during World War II, a paradise for lovers of the great outdoors. The Kimpton Armory in Bozeman, a true hotel with a past. I'm Peter Greenberg. All this and more on the next edition of The Travel Detective on PBS. Check your local listings. By the way, I'm in Hong Kong tonight. That's why we're doing the show at this hour as opposed to noon, because I'm getting on a plane to fly back to New York in a few hours. Why? Because there's something very special that's happening in New York on Thursday, the 24th. And let me set the scene for you. It's probably going to be one of the more remarkable, emotional reunions I can imagine. I've been lucky enough to be asked to MC the event. It's the 50th anniversary of Operation Baby Lift, a story that I covered when it happened, and then I covered it in the aftermath 9 years later as a special that we did for ABC News 2020, which won the Emmy, actually, for the best investigative reporting by a television news network, and for good reason, because it covered a terrible tragedy, which now we are looking at 50 years later as a moment of resilience, recovery, and celebration. Let me explain. It was 50 years ago this month. Saigon was about to fall. Vietnam War was about to end. The Viet Cong were coming in. And it was discovered that there were a few hundred Vietnamese orphans still stuck in Saigon who'd been adopted out to U.S. parents. They'd already been pre-adopted, but they hadn't left the country. They had to get them out. Now, we had medically equipped hospital planes at Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines, but they were told not to go. Instead, somebody at Lockheed lobbied hard the Defense Department to send a plane that never should have been sent. It was never proper for that mission. It was the largest cargo plane ever built at the time, the massive C-5A. And so that plane was sent. It landed in Saigon. The kids were put on the plane. There were a few seats in the upper deck. They were cramming these kids in 2 to 3 to a seat. There were no seats on the floor in the lower deck. It was a cargo plane. They were bungee cording these kids on the plane. It was terrible. They closed the door. That plane roared down the runway, headed for the reunion with their parents back in the United States. But then, shortly after takeoff at 10,000 feet, the massive rear cargo door blew out of the plane, sucking a lot of people to their deaths, severing all the control cables, the hydraulics. All the pilot left at his disposal was his throttles. And he miraculously managed to do a long turn and turn that plane around with no other controls to head back to the base. But he couldn't control his altitude. He couldn't control his speed. And 2 miles short of the runway, he slammed into a rice paddy at 300 miles an hour. And more kids were killed. But the kids who survived the crash, they still needed to get them out. And that's where Pan Am came in. You may remember the James Earl Jones movie, Last Flight Out. That's a true story. And the Pan Am guys got these kids out and back to their parents in the U.S. That's not where the story ends. That's where the story starts. Because each of these kids was adopted to a parent who didn't know any of the other parents. One kid went to Wyoming, Chicago, New York, Nebraska, you name it. But then one parent after another made a startling discovery about their child. They were violent. They were acting out. They were aggressive. They were somber. They didn't seem normal. And one parent took her child to be examined, and the doctor came back with a diagnosis. He was suffering from MBD. That stands for minimal brain dysfunction, caused by what? Lack of oxygen. When that door blew out on the plane, that plane wasn't prepared for emergency oxygen for anybody, and those kids suffered. Well, we did that story for ABC News. It forced Lockheed and the government to pony up the medical expenses that were desperately needed by those parents to treat their kids. And now, on April 24th this month, that's in 3 days, at the Pan Am Museum in New York, the reunion is happening. And are you ready? 100 of those kids, now each over the age of 50, is coming back. This is going to be amazing. If you happen to be in New York, in the area on Thursday, I encourage you to come. There's a $75 fee to come. It all goes to the nonprofit. Nobody's getting paid for this, but everybody who is involved in this story is going to be there. What a remarkable piece of American history that few people ever knew about. But wow, everybody has an amazing story to tell, and those stories will be told Thursday night at the Pan Am Museum in New York. I hope you'll come and join me. I just wanted to make sure you knew about that. Let's go to some other questions you've been asking. Here's one from Gene who said, what was your longest cruise and on what ship? I asked you this last week, but my phone died when you did the answer. Very easy. 18-day trip to Antarctica on Silver Sea back in 2018. Life-changing experience for me. Okay. Adrian wants to know, what company offers the expeditions to Antarctica? We want to fly over the Drake Passage. Well, there is now an air bridge that will fly you from South America to King George Island in Antarctica. Silver Sea is one of the ships that does that. I think there are one or two others as well. For those of you who understand the Drake Passage, otherwise known as the Drake Shakes, it is, in my book, the roughest body of water in the world. I've done it twice. I was lucky. I did not end up in a conversation with a porcelain telephone, but I have to warn you, it was rough. But once you're down in the Antarctic, it's smooth. Just got to get there. Okay. Mike says, do airlines allow you to fly with 2 service dogs? You heard my story about that. No, they shouldn't, but people are doing it. It's a clear giveaway. It's not a service dog, right? We need professional service dogs helping people with real disabilities, not emotional support animals. That scam has got to go. Okay. Westmont says, if I buy 2 seats on an airplane for myself, will I be allowed to bring 2 carry-on suitcases for the overhead? Wow. Well, the last time I looked, the math on that doesn't work, Westmont, unless you're on a $20 flight, because what you're going to pay for your ticket will far outweigh what they're going to charge you for a carry-on. So do the math and don't do that, okay? All right. Now, I know people who will buy 2 tickets on the plane or 2 seats on the plane for themselves because they want 2 seats by themselves with nobody sitting next to them. You're allowed to do that, by the way. The question is, do you get double the miles? I've never figured that one out. Okay. Julia says, what travel accessories are a game changer in your opinion? Here they are. Gorilla tape, always pack it. A flashlight, extra batteries of every kind, and Tide to Go, because I'm always spilling stuff while I'm on the plane or when I'm at the hotel. You never know when that's going to happen, but you know what? It actually works. Okay, now it's time to look to the photo of the week. Love this one. And the winner, Harry Pincus, who writes, it's a well-established ritual in Puerto Vallarta that locals and visitors like go to the beach at the end of each day to view the spectacular sunsets. This looks like a Maxfield Parrish painting, by the way. And one morning we went up early and viewed something equally spectacular, a breathtaking sunrise. Very nicely done, Harry. And by the way, if you think you have a photo that qualifies as the photo of the week, you know what to do. Just send it to us, photocontest@petergreenberg.com. And if we think it's as good as Harry's, guess what? It goes right up there. I'm racing off right now to jump on an airplane to get back to New York for that Pan Am event, that reunion 50 years later of Operation Baby Lift. Again, if you're anywhere in the neighborhood, please come and attend. You will not be disappointed. You will be enlightened and you'll be inspired. These are unbelievable stories that are being heard for the very first time 50 years later. So I hope you get a chance to do that. Of course, you'll see me on the radio, as they say, this Saturday, coming Saturday. And of course, next week, I'm only in New York for that Pan Am event, and I'm jumping on another plane because the next global travel update is going to be Tuesday, folks. Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern because of time differences, and we're coming from Malta. So I'll see you a week from tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Malta time, because we're 6 hours away. I'll figure out the math. Again, 3 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Malta time. I'll see you then, if not on the radio before. Have a great rest of the week. We'll stay on top of all these news developments and keep you informed, of course, on our website, petergreenberg.com. Thanks for watching. Anthony's getting on a plane right now as well, so I thank him for doing the boards on this. And we'll see you very soon, everybody. Have a great rest of the week.
请所有乘客落車。
请所有乘客下车。
Please exit from the train.